The one who waits has been the person, or was a person, that guided us into extinction. Looking through their notes as well, up until note 14, they had hinted towards features of extinction and what we may be up against. Normally, I would go down through every single note and digest all of that and give that to you guys in a more crude form. However, luckily for us, I was sent an email, and this email basically contains a summary of the one who waits. We're going to go down through this entire segment, and this should finally tie in all of the ends when it comes to extinction, and it should explain the one who waits. And there's some really strange twists in the story as well, in the story of Ark. I also like this little section right here. You can obviously see this building, and this was actually during the end scene of Aberration, when we saw the obelisk right here, and then we had this as well, and then the city. I just want to make a quick comparison for you guys. This may be absolutely nothing, however, there is a very strange structure on the extinction map, and it resembles what we have in our arm today as the specimen implant. This structure is also surprisingly the structure that we had seen at the end of the Aberration Ascension. This structure itself may also hold some secrets of its own when it comes to the storyline and where Ark is moving from this point. We can see right here clearly this thing resembles a specimen implant that we see when we spawn into the game for the first time, and this thing is embedded into our arm. In the ending of Aberration, we were brought to this map right here. This map is obviously the ending zone and what was teasing for extinction. This obelisk actually powered down, and the dome field around it ended up going down. And then we were able to see this structure right here, which resembles a building as well in extinction, and then we saw this as well. I believe this structure that we're looking at right now, along with the city in the background that we now know as Sanctuary, played a large role in the storyline of Ark. However, it's strange to me because we kind of just teleport in here, the field goes down, and then you can see all of this is still fresh. You can see there's still lava, lots of heat, lots of badness happening, and it seemed a lot more reactive and current than in the past. And then we go there, and it kind of just seems like it's in the past. We have a hellscape that's basically glassed over into nothingness, and there's no real lava or anything happening. Whether or not this was a hype mechanic for them to build up the game itself, or if this means we ended up at a point in time past this and we skipped something, well, I'm not really sure. In comparison to this, I was actually sent a tweet that makes sense in some light, but not entirely. And this tweet consisted of the idea that the ending of Ark Aberration was not the beginning of extinction, but is set after the ending of extinction. You are waking up near the crash site of the malfunctioned Aberration Ark. The roar is Rockwell. Now, like I said, I do think this theory is flawed, maybe even fatally flawed. However, in some sense, it kind of does make sense, to be honest with you. Either way, let's move into the One Who Waits Explorer notes and find out exactly what's going on with Helena, and well, we'll move from there. This is going to be a more streamlined, less in-depth version of the Explorer notes. If you would like to have every single little detail vomited onto your beautiful faces, well, I suggest you read them yourself. However, I don't have the time to edit that kind of video together or make that kind of video. It'd take like 2 days. So instead, we're going to be going down through the important points and hopefully getting right to the conclusion in a informative but timely manner. The One Who Waits. In the very first Explorer's note, for the One Who Waits, she, who I presume is Helena, already knows the player character, even going as far to say, "Welcome home." So our character has already been to Sanctuary before in some way. Not only that, but in the second Explorer's note, we're told that its towers sparkled, machines filled its streets, and its peoples harvested miracles from the rivers of violet that flowed beneath its skin. So whatever goop Rockwell was throwing himself into, melted down element, for those of you who don't know, this city was founded on, which would explain all of the technological advancements. As you read the Explorer notes based on her, she mentions the other canon survivors, mentioning how there was one of your kind who could reforge them. Perhaps you can too. It is the only way you'll have their aid, which I presume would be Santiago and repairing the mech suits. As you read about her notes, you'll come to the conclusion that she basically is an overseer of some kind, referencing that you should bring your friends and some weapons, or friends that are weapons because we're going to need it. So I hope you brought your hammer and some friends, and weapons, and friends that can be weapons. You're going to need lots of things, basically. This home is, well, it's what you'd call a fixer-upper. Furthermore, she's the first character to give us a name on this planet we call home. And now, quoting from the note, and now Earth, humanity, life, you can give all of it the chance to try again too, because you and all your siblings who fell from the sky are the ones who try again. Interestingly enough, this century-long war didn't take place anytime near us. It's extremely old. We're talking millennias to figure out. She tells us that she regrets not being able to save all the souls that rose up after death, and the few she did became what were subjects for the Ark. May, Helena, Santiago, Diana, even Rockwell, all souls that throughout the ages were strong enough to hold on until the one who waits could grab her. In fact, thanks to the one who waits, we learn that our deaths are part of her plan. We die to gather information so that we can experience and learn how to avoid it. Her plan is for us to defy the system's law and overcome them. Promptly after she decides to talk about her people, they aren't called Homo Deus like we're led to believe. That's just the names the humans gave them. They all live in small boxes, and she hates her cold and lonely box. Her people are all quite strong, each Ark being bound by one of her kind. They are all extremely powerful. However, they've lost themselves. This is a matter that even the one who waits has come to terms with. Quoting, "While my elders have lost themselves, I still cling to my own mind, my own heart. As much as both have changed, they are still mine, but my grip will not hold forever." End quote. So ultimately, looking down through this document so far, we've basically learned that Helena, or the one who waits, has been around for a very, very long time, and past events that have happened to her, while she has been persistent through nearly all of them if you follow the Ark lore. She has seen her friends live and die countless times, which I can only imagine is an incredible emotional strain right then and there. However, she had the power and the ability and the technology to clone them and bring them back after each time they died, effectively saving their minds in a data state and then re-uploading them to a brand new body that was a copy of their previous one so they could continue on with what they knew and what they remembered, which also goes hand in hand with how we play the game and how after our character dies, we keep all of our engrams, everything our character has learned. We can move forward and just start over and begin making whatever it was we had, and we learn how to tame different creatures. Our new returning enemy. The one who waits calculates everything at all times no matter what. While she speaks to us in the Explorer notes, she is overseeing another survivor, measuring the possibility our conversation alters, and etc. She knows a lot more than we do, including knowledge of element. She mentions that it is a poison, but not just any poison. It's alive and constantly seeking new avatars or proxies. She describes element as, quote, "The uses for it were beyond counting. Hardier than tungsten, more versatile than copper. In the right form, its ability to generate electricity and produce radiation were unrivaled. It's no surprise then that things moved quickly. Impact, discovery, intention, and production, all in rapid succession." End quote. She goes on to ask how the element spreads as it does, and even she does not know the answer. In fact, she doesn't think it matters at this point. The element works kind of like the old gods in World of Warcraft, or Cthulhu. It lures victims in with warm words and promises, every need and desire achieved, slowly whittling them down a path into darkness until it's part of the hive mind mentality. with that, she pushes us onward to keep trying, no matter what. Eventually, when we've tried enough, the arcs will bloom and the world will become new again. Now this section actually moves into the lore previous. When Helena was still quote-unquote alive before she ascended to the Homo Deus form, we had learned that element was the cause of 90% of the issues on the planet, and that it may also be its own entity that is self-aware with the only goal of survival. We also know that it fell from space onto Earth a very long time ago. And when humanity found it, they found practical applications, and the way that it spreads is through spores it emits after it is used, and it repopulates that way. Now, unfortunately, because humanity didn't know about this, or really probably didn't care and see the threat, they used it for military application, and that supercharged it to spread everywhere, and by the time we realized what was happening as a race, it was already too late, and we couldn't do anything about it. The theory picks up with this is where it gets interesting, and the theories start to light up and face the light. Quote, "There is one that stands taller than all the others. His is the deepest, darkest shadow, a void so overwhelming that it can snuff out even the brightest of lights." End quote. She is referencing the King Titan. As, quote, powerful as he is, he has felt his own mortality before, when blood seeped from the scars that linger on his chest. He can fall, and you can be the one to pull him down, end quote. She then talks about how you could either purify the Titans, or you could kill them. Whichever is up to you, they are the key, surprisingly. The one who waits also bears a gift for you, in the form of finishing Santiago's Megamech. Quoting, "I did promise you a gift, didn't I? This is its nature. It's a weapon of heroes that was built to battle the shadow. Wielded by few and forged by one. Its smith's soul may have faded, but his legacy is yours to carry on, as long as you can claim it. However, I have made one slight alteration. When it was first conceived, it took 4 sets of hands to wield this weapon properly. Now a single pilot can use it with ease. One warrior controlling the power of 4 souls." Let's just pause right here for a second. This is all pointing towards Santiago. Santiago was unfortunately killed in one of the mechs that he created. However, Santiago also made the Mega Mech Protocol, which was basically they would get their mechs together and they would form the Mega Mech that would be able to supposedly take on the King Titan. However, they failed to do so because the mechs were getting damaged, they were being destroyed. Santiago unfortunately passed, and this is the legacy that he left behind. The weapon that we were promised back in Aberration or whenever we were waiting for this expansion was the Megamech. That was the weapon that was promised to us that people were questioning, and people still question it. Well, here's the answer for you. It was the Megamech. After destroying the King Titan, the King of Gaia will be yours. The key basically lets you call down the arcs and push the final cutscene. Discerningly, she talks about the dreams of the sleepers, but knows that dreams are just illusions of the mind. Following after, she talks about the dead she couldn't bring back and thanks us for putting an end to Rockwell. She goes on and decidedly talks about how one-sided this conversation is and how grateful she is for us to listen. So this is in real time for our character. Her elders had lost their identity when she was born, and she had no one to learn from. With that, Helena has become the one that waits. While others have said she ascended to Homo Deus before, they most likely use notes from the survivors' perspectives that line up with the story. What if to say the original Helena became a Homo Deus, and the clone is what existed up until she, quote-unquote, ascends? The final part of this entire theory is basically the notes seem extremely human and have actual emotions, desires, and urges. For a class of humans that are so above us that when describing their purpose it's said, quote, "Think, how much have you ever seen at once? Were you able to process it all, to take in every little detail?" Now imagine doing that for 2 such images. Now 100, 1,000, 10,000, 1,000,000. All that knowledge, all that information, flows into us. It's what let my elders build the system. It's what let me grant you your name, one who tries again. And it's what lets me speak to you now." End quote. How do they have time for such emotions when they're a literal font of knowledge? They'd have no time for that. And she begins to see that trend. Quoting, "I don't dream myself, I see. I predict, I calculate. Dreams are distortions of reality, memories, hopes, and fears twisted into a painting that defies logic. They are not accurate or useful at all. And yet there is some part of me that yearns for them, just as I yearn to see the sunrise." Some parts of her are still human, obviously, and some parts of her mind are clinging to that. And the final note, and by far the most convincing fact that there is still a human giving these human-esque speeches, it reads, "Sometimes in the midst of all your trying, success will seem so impossibly far away. Miles, leagues, light years. You begin to think you have tried all you can. There is no new angle to take, no more strength you have to give. That house you built, that companion you lost, and that progress you made, now that it's gone, what's the point? Why keep trying?" In those moments, when you fall into that deepest, darkest pit inside yourself, try to remember that someone believes in you. Someone wants to prop you up. And as dark as it gets, know that there will be another sunrise for you, for the sleepers, and for the earth. I will wait as long as I can in the hopes I may see it with you. But even if I cannot, then I hope you'll enjoy it for me, because it's bound to be even more beautiful than the last. In conclusion, Helena ascended to Homo Deus a long time ago, and she's been overwatching the survivors. The clone of Helena travels with Raptor, Rue, and gang until extinction. Remember the existential crisis she had seeing the rest of the clones? The real one knows what's going on. And I actually remember this in the Explorer notes because Helena came across a cloning chamber in the original Island Ark, I believe it was. When you guys go to the end, you fight the Overseer that's like a specimen implant looking thing. I think it was actually there she came across the DNA section and how things were actually cloned and how people came back. And then she was questioning herself if she was a real human or if she was just a clone, this and that, and if she was the original. Well, in this idea, in this set of circumstances, she is just a clone of herself who has ascended to Homo Deus, which makes entire sense to me because a Homo Deus is so out of touch with human emotion and more in touch with data, statistics, and so much more. It's basically a given fact in my mind that she would clone herself to be more human and leave behind something that relates more closely to us and something we can relate to more and feel emotionally. And that's basically it for the entire theory right there. I want to know what you guys think down below in the comment section. If you agree with this, if you don't agree with this, if you think something's tying in more, did we skip something when we left Aberration and came to Extinction? Is there a gap in time there at all that maybe Wildcard wants to go back and explore something else with Extinction? Or, oh boy, it could get messy, but that's the One Who Waits Explorer notes. Thank you so much for sending me this email, by the way. I really appreciate that you condense all this down. It saved me a ton of work, and oh man, that would have been a headache to go through and try and compile all that stuff. Guys, that is it for now. Let me know your comments down below. Again, let me know your thoughts as well. Leave a like if you did enjoy this Ark video. And I will see you in the next one.
But make no mistake, this is all thanks to you. And just